Live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Supernatural Substation. I'm your host, Alyne Pustanio. My co host and producer extraordinaire is with me, Bernadine Richardson. Say hey, Bernadine.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, and we back.
We back.
We are
We're
back on the spookiest
missed it.
night of the year. We've
Yeah.
been gone a long time, y'all, but we're back now. We're in a new setup. We're learning some new things. So if you bear with us, if we have any technical difficulties, I don't think any one of us is an actual walking Mercury retrograde, but you never know what can happen. So, and hope you've missed us, but we're going to be back with our weekly podcast now. Pretty soon we'll be having the video issues kind of ironed out, so you get to see our Dean's lovely face and my big old moon pie face, and
Okay.
you can turn the sound down and laugh and make fun if you want. But anyway, welcome. It's been a long time, Dean.
I know. There's
Was
been a
it
lot happening.
was it COVID like 2020 that
Yeah.
we took a break? Yeah, I think that was it.
Mhm.
I think we
Yeah.
preceded COVID on that one, but so we haven't been on since 2020. And here we are on Halloween. We're starting anew. We're relaunching the show as a podcast on Halloween. Spooky.
Yeah. And
That's
didn't you get a new book out since then? Since
uh
our last show?
I don't think so. I've lost track. No, but I've been working on it really hard.
Yeah, good. Good. Because you were just at a convention, weren't you?
I went, yeah, and I sold my book, my two books that I have, Haunting Tales of Old New Orleans and um Risks, Incidental, Supernatural Dangers of Paranormal Exploration. And I'm working on the second volume of Haunting Tales. I am actually really working on it. I've said, yeah, I'm going to have it out. I'm going to have it out. But I am actually really working hard on it. And another nonfiction that's going to be a haunted life of mine. And I'd like to do one with you so we can get
It'd be
your haunted
awesome.
life experience. You're going to have to start remembering and writing everything down, I guess, since we're
Oh,
getting,
kind of burned in my brain. So,
yeah. And just but writing it down, you'll be surprised how much you overlook and all. But it's
yeah.
been, yeah, a long time no here. We were with another network for a while, and we just stepped back and took a break. And at the time we had another co-host, and that was Pete Haviland. And unfortunately, very sadly, in 2021, he passed away. It was very sudden, and but he was having heart problems and some issues with his, brought on by his weight. He was a big guy, but we dedicate this first show and maybe every show hereafter just to him because he was a real trooper, you know, and I do miss him.
I know I was supposed to go to where he lives on the Houston side. We were planning on me making a trip there so
Yeah,
he could do a past life, what do you call it?
a regression.
Yes, past life regression on me
Yeah,
because I
a lot of
wasn't
people.
able to get put under by anybody. Like everybody who ever tried said
Mhm.
we can't do it because it's there. Even Ron Gidgey tried, poor thing, and he's got the tick tock thing in front of me, and he's like, "Are you under?" I'm like, "No."
It's the same. I don't know what it is. It's the same thing with me. I don't know
Yeah,
whether it's that you don't want to surrender complete control. You don't want to check
yeah, we
out.
have control problems. I think that's what it is.
I don't want to be. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be incapacitated and unable to like get out of it until they call you. But yeah, he was, in addition to being he was a private investigator, Pete. He was a certified hypnotherapist, and his passion was the paranormal and paranormal investigating. He ran Lone Star, I think it's Lone Star Paranormal, out of Texas, and I met him a long, long time ago when MySpace was still a thing.
Oh
Was
my
when
goodness.
yeah, Pete and I started talking back and forth around then, and then we followed each other to Facebook and everything. And I really wish we would have brought him on sooner. And but it's just he had a lot of great guests, and it was he knew a lot of people. It's just he's going to be missed. So Pete, this one's for you and everyone that we do that we're successful at.
I'm
And we
pretty
don't.
sure he's watching us right now, you
He
know.
is, yeah.
They say when you say their name and you talk about them, they're there.
Well, Pete,
They can hear
don't
you.
screw up our connection.
Yeah,
We're too old
don't
to
do
figure it
that.
out. No, if we get it right, don't mess us up. No, he wouldn't. Yeah, I hope so. I think about him. I do think about him a lot, and every time that I have my Doberman, Valkyrie, and every time I'd post on Facebook a picture, he'd go Valkyrie, and he had a Great Dane, and he would post that, and he had a great sense of humor, and he called us his ladies, and
Yeah.
I was looking at the messages. It's kind of it touches my heart that he would say, "How's my ladies today?" And he always had our back, and so he's going to be missed. Um, and that's all I can really say. I know he's going to be missed a lot, but time watches on, and we're moving forward and everything. And I know in our first incarnation, we had some great guests. You got the great guests, because you're the producer. You got some great guests. So, like who do we have? Well, who did we have? I remember Andrea Perron, Ralph Sarchi, Michelle Bellinger,
Yeah, we
Nick
had
Redfern.
Jeremy Leonard, which went on to have his own show,
Yeah,
Joy Denton, Out of
yeah.
the Darkness, the one that he had helped out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to mess this name up. You could probably say it better than me. Belvazar Ashanti.
Balthazar, Ashanti son.
Why can't I say that? My goodness.
I don't know what's his real name though.
I don't know. But he's beneath
You
the
gonna
shadow
make up?
of hope. We
Well, I'm
had
not
David
saying
Thomas.
he. He was. He
He
was
was
going to participate in Fear Fest. Now that's the fest. The
really
yeah, the what Bernadine mentioned earlier when she was talking about my books. There was a convention that I went to, Fear Fest, and it floated under my wire for over a year, and it met a lot of blowback in the community where they had it, which is Mandeville, Louisiana, which is about 30 miles across the lake from the actual city of New Orleans. And down there in New Orleans, I mean, voodoo, hoodoo, vampires, they just had a whole weekend celebrating vampire stuff. And, it's like, nobody even blinks an eye. But apparently, you come over here and you get a little closer to, I guess, what some people have called like the Bible Belt of Louisiana. And so it got out in public that there was going to be this guy named Balthazar, and he's got a couple other names, but I know it's Ashanti son, and he's like connected to Voodoo Authentica, and so it kind of lit up a bunch of people over here. This was a long, and I have yet to send you a couple of links that I discovered too, which I will do. But there was this long, drawn out. People just did not want this festival to happen, and it was strictly paranormal and horror. There were some guests that had appeared, excuse me, on The Walking Dead. Um,
Mhm.
One guy who is the newest or latest guy to play Pinhead from the Hellraiser series, but there was also a lady there selling jellies and jams. There was a lady there selling hot tamales, and I missed it all. I missed all of it, and I came in like under the wire in like the last week before. And the only way I found out about it was on Facebook. I had a cousin who knows one of the guys who was going to have a food truck out there,
Mhm.
and apparently there were protesters. There were people protesting this, and this was not. And churches gave statements, and there was one Catholic church involved, and there were some other non-denominational churches involved. And I've since found a lot of that material. Somebody even boldly went on the radio and basically on a local station, and they both, the host and the woman that was speaking, were basically saying, don't go, don't bring your kids to this. And I think they got into a gray area of whether that's legal or not. But it's interesting because in other places like Michigan, there's going to be Mid Michigan Paranormal Fest or something. I don't know the exact name, but they're going to have that this coming weekend. 2 or 3 days of just solid paranormal groups,
Sorry if
horror.
you hear a baby in the background.
Oh, that's okay.
Like,
This is it's real time. It's for real, real life here.
real, we're live.
You're not in a studio, so you may hear dogs and babies and who knows what. Um, but uh, there's that festival. There's all these festivals. They're mostly like there was one in Kentucky, and I mean they're huge and they're successful, and it's just unusual. I mean, that something like this would strike such a nerve when a lot of the people didn't know. I guess it's interesting the state of the paranormal now, because years ago you'd have little bitty festivals, that would pop up, or they'd be part of another convention. But those big giant festivals. They don't seem to incur anybody's wrath. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Did they advertise long enough? Maybe.
I was told by the guy who organized it all that he all the ads, like paper ads, like flyers or information that he had put out,
Mhm.
they'd go right behind him and take it down.
Oh, well,
Small. So
that's
I
not
mean,
a good.
and I
I mean, we never had problems like that. We've been doing this a long time.
I know when we were
You spoke at festivals we've been to,
yeah, I never
even
had
beauty
anything.
fest.
Even well, yeah, and part of a sci-fi, because we met when I was organizing for BabelCon, and that's how you and I met, and we never had anything. And I think that was part of the reason. Maybe I was thinking about it is because those conventions had other things. They had, the obvious sci-fi, Star Trek, Star Wars, gaming. It was like a multi-genre type thing, and it
Right.
wasn't focused just on the paranormal or horror ever.
Right.
And so maybe that's the route to go. I don't know. It's just I don't think that the organizer said, "Well, I was the first to do it," and it's a good thing because I was thinking about doing one. I was thinking about getting with you and organizing, one,
Mhm.
and I guess I would have met the same opposition or something. But he said, "Well, I'm the first to do it," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you know, it's just." I guess what I mean is like the paranormal's just been around so long. I just didn't think that people were like, would be so against it when it's clearly, they're talking about ghost hunters, and ghost hunters are demonic, and paranormal investigators, they call up demons and all. And I'm like, have you watched, like Zach Bagans? Have y'all watched any of this stuff? It's
Think
all
they most.
entertainment.
I don't think a lot of them do watch, and
Hmm.
I believe. I feel my theory is that some people are afraid of what they don't understand.
Yeah.
And watching some of the paranormal investigative teams on TV kind of gives us a bad rap, you
Yep.
know, because they go out provoking and things like that. And my team totally does not do that. I mean, I train them, do not provoke. We don't want to take these things home with us. We're out there to help people, to help them. Like,
Yeah.
and I'll tell the clients, and I'll tell other people like that approach me, and I have somebody approached me in Walmart calling me the devil and voodoo and all. I said, lady, you don't even know me.
Approached you with that?
Yes. I
Oh my,
said, do you really know? You must not know what I do. I
pop
go
the
out there and I
popcorn.
help people. She's like, well, the church is for that. I said, correct. But after some people have been through all of the options they have,
Yeah.
even the church, and
Yep.
some of them have been turned down,
Mm-hmm.
for all kinds of reasons. And when they have no hope left and they hear our name, you know, it's
Yeah.
just hope that we can help them. We're not guaranteed to help anybody, but we try, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And what would you say, if you're a paranormal investigator and a lady comes up to you or calls you on the phone, she's pregnant, she's got 3 or 4 kids, she's got a husband, they're all sleeping in the living room because they're having paranormal activity in the home they don't understand and they're afraid of.
Right.
So, where do they go when they've exhausted all their resources that they've been given? Where do they go? They come to us. So, what
Well,
do? We can't do anything. And when it comes to children, especially, you know,
hmm
I I help them first because
yeah.
children are scared of that thing, and sometimes they are attacked.
Well, you,
And who are you going to call? The police?
yeah, yeah. No, I don't, or the church, or their church, some non-denominational church. No, I mean,
Um,
you grew up in a haunted houses, and I grew up as a
right.
child,
And we're
and
both Catholic. And
yeah.
who do they call for demonic cases?
Well, if they can get it nowadays, they're calling in a lot, like Sean Whittington, who got on TV with his Legion of Exorcists. I think it's Eli Roth's. Sean Whittington was a guest of ours a couple of times, and we're going to get him back.
Right. Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll have him back. But you've got to the point that you're talking about where they're at is who's going to. They just want someone to believe
Right.
what
And
they're
not call them crazy. And some
right.
may be,
Yeah,
but
well,
that's what
some.
we do. We try to give them proof of what they have or what they don't have. That's what we're
Mhm,
trying to do. We're
mhm.
trying to help ease their mind because sometimes it's something simple like just talking them through it,
Yep.
you know?
And sometimes some simple, like if there is something going on, simple methods, natural methods, that we've often talked about in the past of,
Right.
you know, simple things like vinegar and garlic and, some of the old folk cures for stuff like that actually work. And, it doesn't harm anyone to
And we
try.
go out to explain to them also because like a mother and a father and they have children and they have activity in the home. Well,
Hmm.
what's the first thing they're going to do? The parents will get upset, mad if they're not scared, or they'll bully the spirit
Hmm.
or provoke it and make it worse.
Yep. Make it
So
work. And
people
it just,
like us can go in and tell them, hey, you know who you may be cursing at? We can't
yeah.
see them. We haven't done an investigation, but you may be cursing out a 3-year-old
Hmm. Yeah.
and you think it's some big bad demon.
Right. And then what if you got a big bad name? Yeah, I
How
don't
you
think it's
gonna
going to
know?
take very kindly, to it.
I mean, we're out there risking ourselves for free because we don't get paid for what we do,
Right.
but we do go out there with our own money and the kindness of our heart to help other people. So
Exactly.
I don't see that as being witches and werewolves and
Well,
whatever else they think we are.
they
When they put
in
us as
this
the bad guys.
all the time. But there's a thing that I often say, about knowing about a thing and doing a thing are two different things entirely. Because if I'll say, well, I'm an occultist, they immediately think I'm a witch or I'm doing, I've got circles on the ground and candles. And actually, no, but if you're going to go into this unknown, basically, and you're going to confront something you can't see, then the best place to find out about what you might be encountering is the occult and the folklore tradition, and yeah, to some extent the religious tradition. They tell you, this is what to expect. This is, and especially in occult, in the occult, they'll define things. It's an elemental. It's it's a water spirit or an earth spirit, or it could be a fairy. I remember one haunting you had. Remember that where the
Oh, that
woman was seeing the
thing running.
fairies in the trees? Yeah.
I have on video that thing running across the yard on 2 legs, looked like a
Uh huh.
stick.
Uh-huh.
What the heck is that?
And what did I tell you? Leave it alone. When
Yeah,
I said,
yeah,
look, if she's happy and they're not hurting her, you leave that alone, because angry fairies are not something you want to deal with. And people can laugh all they want, but but there again, there was a woman thinking she was crazy, and
yeah,
she heard an explanation from you, and then from me. She heard an explanation that, look, they're not harming you. Uh, they're here to help, and they just take a liking to this place and to you. And in that instance, the worst thing you could possibly do was drive them away, because then they get angry, and you don't want that. And they're very vicious, and
yeah.
I don't know,
People
but
people don't understand because they can't see these things, and I
hmm
understand they're afraid of what they can't see, you
hmm
know, but there are ways to find out if they're there,
yeah, now,
through people like us, and knowledge is power. If you're
that's
gonna
it.
try to go after something you don't see or don't believe in, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yep.
You
Well,
don't believe in it, you don't know what you're looking for to begin with, and you're
exactly.
provoking, so you're gonna make matters worse on everybody around you. And I
hmm
tell people all the time, I do not let young people on my team, everybody on my team are grown.
yeah,
So, like when we speak at conventions, these young teenagers, and I've had teenagers approach me, I want to be on your team. I want to be on your team. I'm like, go and get a life. That's what you need
yeah.
to, you know, you don't even have a family yet. You haven't even been to college. You haven't lived. Go live your life. I'm old, you know. I've lived through it. I've been
Yeah.
through it. I can teach it to you. I don't know everything, but I would not put somebody on my team and put them in harm's way before they
hmm
even get a chance to live their life. I said, worry about the dead when you're almost there.
Yeah, because
You know,
one
you're
bad
young.
attachment, one care, somebody that picks up an attachment and brings it home. All it takes is one bad one, and your life is taking another path that you had no idea, was even there. So it's better for them, and they need some life experience with it. It all comes down in that regard, I think, to the TV. And it's not just on TV, but I'm talking ghost hunters, and like all the way back to Ghost Hunters, and what do you call them, Ghost Adventures, and now you've got Zach Bagans and all. And I was speaking of which, it's getting to be very big on streaming services and on YouTube. There's so many like groups that have their own YouTube channels, and like spirit guides of in Lake Charles, who I met at that convention. I met Marcus, who basically runs it, and they've
Mhm.
got their own little channel, and they're in like third season of investigations and stuff. And the other night I came on, this is funny, um I'm not going to name who it is, but they've got all of this shows up in my YouTube feed because I watch different stuff. And there was Aleister Crowley. We all know who he is, like the Great Beast. He's well known, and he's now in hell where he expected to be, I guess. But maybe, I don't know. He's somewhere not nice, probably. But anyway, he had a house, and everybody knows it's Boleskine House in Scotland, and Jimmy Page eventually bought the house. Crowley died in 47, and I think Jimmy ended up buying it after a couple of owners in like 1970 or something like that, when they were just getting big, when Zeppelin was just getting big. And Jimmy was, he wouldn't admit it now, but he was kind of like new to all that stuff back then. And
Mhm.
the house was bad because Crowley used it to work a long, long ritual of bringing demons into the reality. And there's all kind of stories about how the more successful he got at opening basically the portal, and the more demons that came through to him, like in the middle of the day, bright sunshine, he'd have to light up candles and put lights on inside the house because the atmosphere was just that dark. So it's a well-known haunted house, and apparently Scotland wants to put it as a historic location. So, and it burned down with nobody in it. No even evidence that homeless people or anything were in it. The house just burned itself down in like 2015. And so it's kind of in limbo. Well, there, here this lands in my feed. There's these four people. And I'm talking buns on their head and dreadlocks. They're young, they're obviously young. These are like hipsters, maybe millennials, maybe Gen Z. They're gonna go up to Crowley's house. They went on up there to Boleskine, and so they're in the house. They showed the outside, so I know for sure they were there, and they showed themselves going in. And then what do, Dean? They're gonna set up a card. They set up a card table, and they take out a Ouija board. They take
No,
Yeah, a Ouija board, and what do you call it? The ghost box. They had the one where it's the static, where it's going feeding through the channels and everything. And these morons are, we are definitely folks anti Ouija board here, and these idiots are doing this stuff. Okay, and in the middle, they're trying to contact Crowley, and I actually went in the comments and said Crowley is nowhere near there. He's gone. Okay, I don't even think we'll see him on the big judgment day because he's gone. And so they're trying to contact him. And this is a house that Jimmy Page himself said he used to see a head roll around in. Like during the wars with Scotland, somebody was beheaded in that house or
no,
outside of the house, and he sees the head, not a person. He saw the head rolling around from room to room, and it would follow him. That's part of the reason why he didn't spend a lot of time there. So you've got, that's Jimmy Page, okay, and he's like, I don't want to
not
be
a
around.
person you want to have following you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he's, it's bad. And he was into some stuff, and he caused some problems because he got attachments all from that house, and, and people died. And these four idiots are in here, and they're making up stuff, and you can clearly see they're bad acting, and they're trivializing the whole thing. And then they claim, the main guy, whoever he is, claimed that, afterwards, 2 weeks later, he's still having things in his house. And all this is happening. And then I'm like, well, maybe something could happen, but I think they're exaggerating. And then somebody calls him and says they found, you ready for this? They were digging around there at Boleskine, and they found, guess what? A Dybbuk box.
No,
Now, I'm going to tell you, and you can go. I'll tell you. But in the comments, I'm like, so where's the Jewish family that lived there? This is only a Dybbuk. People run around with this Dybbuk box stuff, and Dybbuks only attach themselves to Jewish families because they're generational spirits. They're spirits that are attached to Jewish families, so they're not going to be everywhere. And these guys claim that Led Zeppelin, that Jimmy put a Dybbuk box that looks brand new under the floor in Boleskine in the house when they were there, and they dug it up. And I'm like, you have got to, there is the caliber of what you're seeing. That's the caliber of what you're seeing out there now. So I told him in the comments, I said, I call bullshit. And I said, congratulations, you're the Zach Bagans of the UK.
and
There's no,
remember that house that Zach Bagans had tore down?
mm-hmm, yeah, he did
People
the,
went on those grounds also trying to do the same thing
yeah. When
after the house was gone.
Well, I can guarantee you that up there by Boleskine and all, I mean, there's a whole school of thought that Aleister Crowley's workings up there were the cause, basically led to the formation of the Loch Ness Monster. Like, it wasn't until after, and I mean, Crowley dying in 47, he was up there in the I guess, at Boleskine in the 1920s, maybe, or something. And the first sightings, I think, didn't start until the 1930s of this creature in the lake. And I said, well, it makes sense. It's a supernatural creature. But you've got these people running around. And then that's why when someone young approaches you and says, I want to join, they see all that on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
And I guess, I get, we bitched about this a lot, and when we had our show before, and I guess we're going to bitch about it some more now, because you can't, it's just so dangerous. They don't understand the danger to their spirit and their lives, and the things that it can pollute and just hang in there, and it draws other spirits and other attractions, and it's just a terrible thing. It's like it's like your spirit is exposed to bubonic plague or something, or you catch a disease and then you can give it to somebody else. You go and you have no respect, and you don't believe that these things, and you just want to do it for fun. And
Well, I have an example for Halloween.
okay.
Okay, I don't know if you remember a couple of years back, a friend of mine's son contacted me. Okay, he was I think 18, 17, something like that, and wanted to know what would happen if he'd be okay, because I can't guarantee you're going to be okay, but he's going to ask me anyway. Will I be okay if I go in the oldest cemetery in our town and do EVP session on Halloween night? I said, absolutely not.
No.
Do not do that. Why would you even want to do that? I said, and you have your mom at home, your dad that's not doing well, you have a new baby and girlfriend there. You're gonna might bring something home, you know.
Yeah,
He still did that.
of
Okay, this
course.
boy was of sane mind. His mother calls me a week later, which is a good friend of mine. She's like, I don't know what happened to him, but we had to put him in a mental institution
Oh my God.
because he was hearing after he did these EVP sessions. I don't know if he ever captured anything, but after he went and did this on Halloween night, whatever followed him back home, he would
Hmm.
lay in his bed and hear this woman screaming, screeching in his ear that nobody else could hear.
Oh my goodness.
And it drove him to the point to where he had to go into a mental institute. Not, I mean, he's fine now, but still, I had to send like all kind of things through the mail because they didn't live close to me. Um, like prayer rituals and things for them to
Yeah.
try, you
Hmm.
know. But so what's that, an experience for him to go back and tell his children not to do, which he
Well,
should have did? But
and you don't know
that's
that it's
that's a
gone,
horrible way,
you
you
know?
know?
You don't know that it's gone. It
And
could.
it's gonna attach to the weakest link when it's something like that.
Absolutely. The weakest link is the thing that gets hit first.
Right.
Whenever, not even, this is in situations of magic as well. When people are
Like
throwing,
our friend Keith.
yeah. Well, it's not the dead in the cemeteries and we've said this before, and this is for Halloween. It is not the dead. It's what's in there with them. I mean, you want to, Uncle Joe dies and you want to talk to Uncle Joe in the cemetery and get EVP with Uncle Joe, you go within about 6 months, the made maximum. Because if he was a good man and his passing is like everybody else. I mean, we only hear about the ghosts that kind of like want to hang around and stuff. Well, not always. We have people that do visit, but I mean, Uncle Joe. There's no reason to think he didn't go on to heaven or to his what next adventure. He's not going to hang around his grave. He may go there if he has some misunderstanding about where he is, and the spirits that are with him will show him your body's buried here, and maybe they'll go between the house and this goes on for just a little while, and you don't want Uncle Joe to be hanging around because Uncle
Right.
Joe will get caught up in all of that, all those spirits that are like right there. But you go in a cemetery to do these random EVPs, and you're not going to get, somebody just told me he's got a team. And he goes in the cemetery into the old part, and he goes to a particular grave, and he's always the guy always talks to him, and I'm like, when was he buried there? He was buried there in like the early 1900s or something like that. So, and I hate to be this nag, but I just said, "Oh, really?" I didn't even get into it, because he's a paranormal investigator, quote
Okay.
unquote, and he's a demonologist. He calls himself, and he should know better than for what he's doing. But absolutely not. You're going to go do random EVPs in the cemetery? I,
You know,
it,
when people first pass, I know that it's temptation. It's because you want to
Mhm.
hear your loved one's voice again.
Yeah.
You want to know they're there. I mean, I went through it when my sister passed, and I
Hmm.
had EVP recorders. I have all the equipment. Okay,
Yep.
I have every gadget you can think of. Well, it was temptation for me, but I knew that temptation,
Yeah.
knew not to do this because I
Hmm.
didn't want to hold her spirit here. And if
Exactly.
you go right away after a person passes, you're confusing them for one.
Yeah.
You may be holding their spirit here, you know.
Hmm.
And
They
why would
think they
you want
need to.
your loved one to pass on? You miss them, you're grieving, but don't use that temptation to go buy a recorder or do any kind of divination trying to hold them here
Right.
because you
Ex-
miss them, let them
that-
go.
And then they feel like, they still have that connection to you, and they feel like, well, I can't leave, look how broken up she is, or look, look, they need me to stay. And, that lends to more spirits, just like seeing a wreck on a highway. It's, rubbernecking, and spirits
Mm.
are always looking for energy, or the energy generated by a bunch of spirits, or even one spiritual
And
attack.
emotion.
Hmm?
That's why I tell people do not do an investigation in your own home.
Right.
Because in your home, like say I wanted to contact my sister, I
Yeah.
knew better. Okay. And I teach
Hmm.
my team the same thing. We can go out and do investigations in other people's homes. We view it like we going in as a job to help these people. We don't go in with personal emotions for their loved ones, but in our own home, we have our own personal emotions
Right.
because it's our loved one we're worried about, we want to talk to.
Hmm.
So, but we don't know what can come through with them.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, that's what ends up people having to deal with
Emotions
paranormal.
and energy, and they need energy to manifest. So, what else can bring in because you're so grief stricken and you want to hear your loved one's voice so bad and they just pass?
Grief is one of the food, I guess, of a lot of entities, that negative entities. They feed off of grief, and that's why the grieving process shouldn't be long and protracted. If you're still grieving, I mean, you're gonna get depressed. If you think about it, you're gonna go through periods of sadness, and you're gonna know what that is, and you're gonna miss them and all that. And maybe you haven't, it hits you later, like when my dad died. It didn't hit me right away. But even a year and a half, 2 years later, it was like, wow, he's gone. He's gone. My mother died when I was like 27. So I haven't had her for most of my life, but my dad's been here, what had been here through my whole life. And I mean, we argued and fought when I was young, and we still argued and fought when I was older and taking care of him. But the realization of the vacuum, of the emptiness that person, the space that they occupied, they're not there. It can take a while to hit, and the temptation is, I have no reason to believe he's hanging around. But it is tempting. It's tempting. I went to his grave, and we went and brought flowers just about a week ago or so, and they're not there. That's just a shell. And there are things that feed on those energies, the decomposing bodies, decomposing flowers. The last place you're going to find your loved one is in that cemetery, hanging around. And if they are, then the one thing you want to do is release them from that. But there's no way of knowing, and you're not the person to go in there and do that. It's just what I'm saying, I guess, is in the short amount of time, which is relatively short since we previously did the Supernatural Substation until now, a lot has changed, and primarily with the amount of people that are on YouTube, and so accessible to just anybody, kids, anybody. And some of them are doing the right thing, some of them are doing all the wrong things. Most of them are dramatizing stuff just as they see, because they want those clicks, and they want they want the attention, they want the whatever, ad revenue and all. Some people are doing it for money, but they are emulated every day by kids and people who don't know what they're doing, who basically do not know what they're doing and what they're getting into. And I noticed too that a lot of these newer teams and newer, basically, I guess, channels with maybe one or two people on it, they're they're all a lot younger, and they're all into the provoking and the, I because they need that footage, they need stuff to actually, put up there. They need the content, and they're willing to do anything. They go in places that are notoriously haunted. They go in places that are abandoned, and even, physical dangers. And they're willing to do just anything. And they're young too.
Right.
They're very young. They're like Gen Zers, and it's like, what do you know about this now? I see them doing. They're just doing so many stupid things, you know. And then when they get something that actually happens, they freak the hell out.
Yeah.
One guy, there was one channel that had a bunch of investigators, quote unquote investigators. Dean, these guys were like in there. They were like 20, they were probably between 20 and 28 max. Okay. They're in their 20s, nearly all of them. They had a couple of older guys who should have known better. But it was like 16 of them at 16 different locations. I think I sent you the link to this. And they were young guys, a lot of them. And one guy got put really, really nice. He got put into the prison I think it's called Brushy Mount, and it's in Tennessee. And he had some real stuff go down. Actually, there were a couple of them that really, and you could tell just in the way that they were acting that something unexpected, was like, happening. Like, I didn't plan on this, or they didn't tell me about this, or whatever. I'm not saying they plotted and said, okay, this is going to happen at such a time, but they want that content, so you have to just use that. He got into prison, and he was sitting in a solitary cell, and somebody bad had been in there when it was really a prison, and unbeknownst, I mean, no, unplanned, he started hearing things, and he heard, and you could hear it coming down the hall. He was all the way at the end of this long row of cells. This howling thing. It was not howling loud, loud. It was
Mhm.
this distant sort of a, ooh, and it was coming down the hallway to him. And
Oh,
his
wow.
face, okay, he was like, this, you could see, this is not what I signed up for. I mean, all over his face. He was scared. He really was scared, and you could tell that was unplanned. And I guess, like I say about Zach Bagans and all these people, ghost hunters, the amount of places that they investigate, that they have just this enormous amount of locations that now and then they're gonna find a real haunting. They're gonna find something that really happens, and when they do, they're not prepared for it at all. They don't know what to do. They just film it. They don't know what to do. What was that? Nobody planned that. And it's like, you don't have to
Think
fake
they
it.
go in and they don't really think anything will happen.
Exactly. They don't, but they're going in these notorious locations. They were at the Sally House. It was enjoyable to watch. They were at the Sally House. One was at the Villisca Axe Murderer House. The cute one. He was over there. Not for me, but he's young. But I mean, you can say, hey, he's a cute guy. Somebody was at Pythian Castle. They went to the Washoe Club. There was a girl that was there, and it was a great idea. It was really great. And they basically ended up showing you everything that happened. But there was a couple of times, the guy who organized it was the channel is Omar Gosh, I think. You could kind of see a couple of times where he was like, oh, that happened, oh, how unexpected, like, but there were a couple of them that were genuinely did not plan on feeling, having that happen. And this one guy that went to that prison, it was, I think he had the real deal, and he was ready to get the hell out of there. He really was, you know. So I think that's pretty much where it is now. And as much as we talked about, the old line groups like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures and the Paranormal State people and all several years ago, it's even more now. That need to be told, basically, there's dangerous stuff out there, and
Yeah.
just because
And
you don't
information
believe,
needed.
Yeah, this, and we talked about this too. The shadow entities that are being seen everywhere. They're your best friends. you know, Everybody has a shadow entity peeking from behind the wall or something. It was like, yeah, okay. And TikTok, and now we have TikTok. We didn't have that just a few years ago. TikTok is so full of ghost this and ghost that and paranormal and it's just mind-boggling.
I had
Mind.
seen something the other day. I don't know if it was on my on the Facebook. I don't remember what it was on, but they had this guy. They were talking, trying to get the spirit to react. Okay,
Hmm.
make their presence known. And a Coke can. This reminded me of you.
Oh.
A, a Coke can slid across a table.
Hmm.
So he's showing everybody that it was gritty, kind of like whenever it was Johnny Thunders.
Yeah, when we did the
Johnny
Johnny.
Thunders investigation.
Hmm.
Your Coke can slid away from you.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Well, I mean, I felt the table because I thought the same thing. Well, it's hot, it's New
Yeah.
Orleans, but it went when I reached for it. We were doing the Johnny Thunders. Johnny Thunders was in the Heartbreakers, and he was in the New York Dolls. Back in the 70s, early 80s, and for people who don't know, and he was a frequent visitor to New Orleans, and he always stayed at this one place, St. Peter Guest House. I think it's called something else now. And we did a live investigation basically from there, or what they would call a vigil or an overnight or whatever. But when we got there, and we were getting in the room and everything, kind of getting settled in, I had put my Coke down on the top of this marble table that was next to the bed. And I went to reach for it again. We were all just sitting there, and you were sitting on the bed, and uh, I went to reach and it went away from me, and I kept moving my hand toward it, and it was just going toward the back of the table. And I was like, okay, well, it's probably the Coke can is sweating or whatever, and it slid. That thing was like a chalkboard, like matchbook,
Yeah, it was
it was
gritty.
matchbook rough. Nothing. We tried to move
Like
stuff around.
candy
We tried it again.
gritty.
It
Yeah.
was unfinished marble. It was like not polished, so it had that porousness, and there's nothing. We tried to push the can and all that. So it's moments like that, and we knew, well, this was going to be not a good investigation. And remember, they were trying to call us, Michael Vara. We were doing Michael Vara, and he was trying to call, and no calls came through the room. I was sitting there with the phone on my lap. I'm like, it's not ringing. And the guy who did the switchboard was this gay guy, and he's like, he's like, what? I'm trying to get in touch with your room. I'm trying to put this call through, and I'm like, it's not freaking ringing. Okay. And finally we got him through, and that was one of the best, I think one of the best investigations. Well, you've had others, but one that I've been on, it was fun, and it was scary, and it was like, okay. But Johnny Thunders died there of a heroin overdose, in 90, I think it was 94, maybe a little bit later than that. And they took him out of there. When they found his body, it had rigor mortis. He was bent over on the side of the bed, folded over, and so they
And
had to
that
pick him
room was so
up.
tiny.
Yeah, and they had to put him on the New Orleans corner. Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
it was, and the not our problem dudes. Okay, had a, like, so they put him they put him in a bag, and they stuck the body on top of a stretcher with, instead of laying it on its side, it was ass up in the air, and
Still
people were
bent over.
there. He was like total disrespect, and so, but I think we got him to pass on. However, you had some great photographs or photographic evidence of the thing that was in there
Yes.
with us, or the thing that was holding him there. You want to talk about that? The demon on the TV?
Well, remember, was it before we went or after we went that they had a couple, they came from California? Well,
Before.
they flew in to New Orleans, their first time there.
Hmm.
Is that why we went and did the investigation? Because I
I th-
remember they left and never came back.
I think it was. I think it was before. I'd have to look at the story that I wrote.
It was a man and a lady, and wasn't the spirit holding her down in the bed or something?
Yeah, and they they wanted to move them. Well, no, that was another couple. They were two different couples. The ones that stayed in the room, in Johnny Thunder's room, because once Johnny left, that had to be after we did the investigation. Because if anyone who knows anything about Johnny knows that he had a girlfriend named Sable Starr, and she's a famous LA groupie that used to go around, baby groupie. She started doing it when she was like 12 years old. And she had died that year, just a couple of months before we did the investigation. And we had EVP of her saying hello, and she was there, and she basically took Johnny with her. So the thing that was left in there was the thing, and that thing was the manifestation of his heroin addiction. And so it was after when the people that stayed in there, in that room, basically ran out, and then it moved. It was going into other parts of the hotel or guest house. There was somebody that got ran out of another room by this demonic thing that they had no problems with, that up to that time had been like contained in the one room. I think that's how it went. I'm pretty sure that's how it went. That's how you remember it?
Yeah, I remember because they never came back. It was their
They ran
first time in New
there.
Orleans and never came back.
Yeah, they were scared to death, and we were like, yeah, because the thing was in there. Now, is it still there? Probably not. I mean, it's probably gone on. It's got so much to feed on in New Orleans, probably not. But for that moment to take away the thing that it had in, kind of enthralled there, which was Johnny Thunder's spirit, to take that away from it, it was looking to suck on somebody else, looking to be uh, basically have its addiction met, because it was just the manifestation of addiction. Which all situations like that, where there are people who are addicted and have addictive behavior and all, there's always spirits around them. And but the actual thing itself, addiction, has an objectively real form. It can take the form of a demon of addiction, and they're all different, and it depends, it's to whoever the person involved is. They're all different, but they're all demons. And yeah, and you had some good photographic evidence of that. So I mean, if
Yeah.
we're here like establishing creds, Dean's got creds going back, and so do I. We've got creds. So when I say, hey, this is going to happen to you if you do that, and it happens, don't be mad. It's because I live that. And you like just what you just said, you go and live your life, and, then do some paranormal, whatever, exploration or whatever. But,
I mean, we had problems when we were growing up. We had,
mhm,
our people were into all that stuff, so we didn't have a choice. Some
right.
kids don't have a choice if they're brought up into it, but they do
Mhm.
have questions. And back then, when we were younger, I'm not gonna say our ages, but when we were
Yeah.
younger, we didn't have choices.
You're
So
not going to say our
we
ages.
we
We,
we we had to like see shadow spirits and deal with things that all we could look up was in the library. We didn't
yeah.
have internet and people to call. They just told us we were crazy if we'd say something.
Who are you going to call, huh?
Who you
Really,
gonna
who are we
call?
going to
Ed and
call?
Lorraine Warren back then?
Yes, they were there, but they were just dealing with other stuff, I guess, and get back to us later. Now, I mean, what Dean's talking about is like my mom was into all that. A lot of people know. I was recently on Misty's show, and you're going to be on. Misty Gaither has a show called Quest. It's true crime and paranormal, and she's going to be, as a matter of fact, she's going to be our first guest on. I don't know exactly the date.
November
Second,
7th.
second Friday.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah,
go live on the second Friday
right.
of November. But I was telling her basically a little bit about it. I mean, my mother was into Hans Holzer and Ed and Lorraine, and doing. And then the other thing was the yoga and the meditation and doing the mantras and all this new agey stuff. And basically what it did was it made our house into a grand central station for demons and
Mhm.
other entities that came through all those practices that she was exposed to by the people that she went around. Getting tarot cards read and psychic mediums. She was into all of that and got
We had
scared off
seances
of it.
and
Yeah.
voodoo and
Yeah. I mean, well, she
rituals
wasn't
and
really voodoo. It wasn't voodoo with her. It was
well, with my people it was.
oh, with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it
Seance and table
grandmother?
flipping and chords and
Yeah.
yeah.
And your grandmother was like a trade
And
tour, right? And basically a Cajun witch is what she was, right? Am I right?
yeah.
Yeah. So we know what we're talking about when we say all this kind of stuff. And I guess we're back to say it. Um, and I wrote I wrote a book about my experiences. I'm not, we're not laying down the law and saying, oh, it's never different. Oh, this is the final word, but we have a kind of a good store of information to compare stuff to experiences that we've had so that when
We
somebody
tell you
says,
the dangers.
I'm sorry.
We can say the dangers
It
because
is dangerous.
we know the dangers.
Well, in my book, I talk about the actual physical danger, and I look at these people going in these abandoned houses and stuff, and and some of them do it by themselves. Like they will go by themselves and stream live on Twitch or TikTok or on YouTube, and it's like, dude, did you tell anybody where you're at? Did you, I mean, it's there in the book. I talk about there was a couple, my book, but I took as an example a couple that did a investigation in an old I don't know, it was an old building, okay, but they were up on what would be the top floor, and there was a bunch of bats that lived in there. It was like a bat cave, and they had guano, they had, the bat excrement, the ammonia and everything was so bad, but they went up in it, and the woman died. It was a couple, and the man survived, but the woman died. She breathed in and her lungs couldn't handle it, and she went into the hospital and died. And they were up there doing, and one woman tried to jump off a building to another building, on the roof, off a roof, because just, because I mean, they were investigating the haunted building on a university campus, and this person thought they could fly, I guess, and or they could make it, and she fell down. It's stuff like, that people don't, they're too wrapped up in what they're doing. On another normal day, if she hadn't been paranormal investigating, she might not have jumped off of a building trying to get to the other roof, that plain and simple. But, because you're all wrapped up in the thrill and the excitement and stuff is happening, and, you're not paying any attention at all, you can hurt yourself really badly physically. And then if you don't, but you're exposing yourself and your spirit to all this random outlaw country that exists all around us that we can't see, then who knows what could happen. There are families literally with generational spirits that they can't get rid of because they dabbled in this, or somebody in their family dabbled in that, or and it's worth considering. um, and we often talk about it, and we're going to have, as we go forward, we're going to have some more in-depth. One thing that I want to do is have some in-depth talks and discussions about some of, not just the the spiritual or supernatural dangers, which we will do that, but some of the haunting or the investigative cases, and how it went down, like Amityville Horror, and there's a lot more to those stories. The Enfield haunting.
Documentaries you've done are very good to talk about too, like the Katrina Cannibal.
Yeah, the Katrina Cannibal. Yeah, I'm in a. I don't go looking to be on TV, but the reason I do it a lot of times is because I want them to get it right. I just want them to say the right thing.
Yeah.
And the history, I ended up on a History Channel episode called Katrina Cannibal,
Mhm.
talking about Zach Bowen and Addie Hall, which is now kind of an infamous story. And you can look it up, but they had stayed in New Orleans all through Katrina, and it was a weird time because New Orleans was evacuated. Like they meant everywhere. Well, they called it too late, but they meant everywhere in the city. And a lot of people listened. There were only, in addition to Zach and Addie, there were like 5 other people or 6 other people that stayed in the entire French Quarter. And
A city that never sleeps.
right, the city that usually never sleeps, and the city that has a lot of voodoo priestesses and priests and altars and home altars and a lot of stuff going on. And in that particular apartment where they lived, they were above the voodoo spiritual temple, but Sister Miriam had to leave and she went to Atlanta. And so that means, and her house was not, they have the Rada and the Petois, which is fire is Petwo, the red and white and red, but they also have whether the house is a blood house, which means animal sacrifices or sacrifice of your own blood or whatever. And there are some that do it. And her house was one of them. She practiced Haitian voodoo, which requires sacrifice sometimes. And so all those spirits that were used to getting their feed off of all the energy of her maintaining her altars, they were like, "Where's our food?" They were plain and simple, and all the spirits that throng around Bourbon Street, with the gambling and the drinking and the sex and everything and the drugs and everything, they had nobody to feed on. And all the ancestral spirits that people work with, and all the spirits like the good spirits or the good law, they didn't get fed either. All their altars were vacant, all the churches were closed, everything. So where, the thing is, where were these spirits going to feed? And sitting right on top of an empty voodoo temple is not really the place you want to be. And ultimately, this guy went crazy, was possessed. I believe he was obsessed and then possessed. Because the reason I believe that is because he wrote a lot of times that he had no control over what he didn't know why he was doing things, and he kept a diary or a journal, and he sometimes it would be crazy writing, and then sometimes he didn't know what he was doing, or he said he didn't know why he was doing stuff, and eventually he killed the girl that he was madly in love with and chopped her up into pieces, and they found her head in a gumbo pot and part of her in a stove, and he had jumped off of the Omni Royal Orleans Hotel in the middle of Royal Street and died. And died from, he committed suicide, and they found a letter on him to tell him to go to that apartment. Well, we observed it. I physically saw the darkness that hung over the city when it was empty. And as people began to gradually trickle back, it gradually got some of it back, but I don't think spiritually it's ever been balanced again. I don't think it's ever really gotten to its to where it's balanced, meaning where that stuff will leave you alone, where it's got enough to feed on, uh, so it won't be looking to attach to other people. And this was very real, and I talked about it, and other people have talked about it, not just me, other practitioners, people that do it, other people who have something to do basically with the paranormal. Everybody commented on how dark and just uncharacteristically dark and gloomy and everything it was when we came back after Katrina and they opened the city. So the stuff is very real. Very.
People have wanted to visit a lot,
Mhm.
since Katrina.
Mhm. They wanted to visit, and now they can visit because somebody took out a 10-year lease on that place, and you can go visit that. It's a voodoo museum now, and you can go tour up there where the murder happened, I think. And a lot of people have gotten wind of it, and so it's one of the main murders and stuff, and it's on all the tours. They've now added it to all the tours, so you can hear the story. But it's very real. Like this past weekend was all the vampire stuff. They had the Anne Rice Ball, Witching Hour Ball on Friday. They had the Endless Nights Ball on Saturday, and we've been there. And there were basically, let's say, consecrations to dark entities. I'm not talking about the Anne Rice ball, which is enough when you're dealing with vampires. Actual people who, and there are people that are sanguine vampires that actually drink blood and think they need it, and because they want to emulate. They want to emulate. I'm sorry, my dog barked. What they see in the movies, what they read in the books. They want to be that, and so they're down there doing that, and there was a lot of that going on. A lot of magic, covens forming, getting together, and all. And we've had our experiences of, or at least one experience of the coven and what it can do when it's together. And remember, basically, we watched a couple of guys try to follow this one guy all over the House of Blues, and it's funny to think about, and I guess they would even laugh now, but it was like they would see him, and we were with them, and we would see him. He's like, there he is, he's right there. We'd start making our way toward him, and then you look away for a minute, and next thing you know, he's upstairs. And the next thing you know, he was over by the stage, and then he went somewhere else. And it was like they were all over following this guy around. And I've thought about it and thought about it a lot. And it's like at the height, there was that much magic going on, and that much working going on, that you could just feed off of the energy. And there were a lot of people just doing their thing, doing their magic thing, and he was doing his thing, and it was kind of wow to watch.
I remember all the dead black cats in the street.
Yeah.
Halloween.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was that about?
I don't know. People sacrificing black cats. When was this?
We were down
Refresh
New
my.
Orleans. Yeah, I
Oh, when we
remember.
were down on that Halloween night,
Yeah,
or that endless night.
with the breast.
Yeah, they were sacrificing black cats. I'm not saying they. I'm not saying the endless nights people. I'm just saying the unknown
down
they.
in New
They
Orleans.
were, yeah, they were down there sacrificing black cats, and I don't know for what reason they were doing it, but yeah, I remember there was a news report all about that, and there were a lot of sacrifices of black cats. So somebody was doing something. Okay, you wonder what it is. Somebody was doing something. There was a reason that they were doing it. So just don't fool with it. And I do remember that because all the way down to back to the healing center, to the voodoo, where we were at Ambadlo. They were doing it. They had all over St. Claude Avenue. They were black cats and stuff. And that's, somebody was doing a ritual. And it was a lot of people doing a ritual at the same time. What they wanted or why they were doing it, I have no idea. But that's
Well, we
stuff that
don't
goes
have
on.
guests. We sure have a lot to talk about because we
Yeah,
we have
yeah.
lots of stories, years and years of stories.
Yeah, and it's not going to be, folks, it's not going to be just us going, hey, remember this, and hey, remember that, and reminiscing and all, even though some of it is real fun and some of it, but it gets kind of boring just listening. We understand that. But we're just trying to give you um, a sample, and we're just trying to welcome our audience back. They're going to have what they expected, what we used to do. And then we're going to add to it. Now we're going to be in podcast form. So I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, where we have a new channel for the Supernatural Substation. So it's going to be our first upload. You'll hear my dog. It's real life. You might hear a door open in a minute. So, because I have to let him out. But hey, this is going to happen. So, because we're not in any studios, we're just at our houses. So, but yeah, going forward, we're going to have our guests back and new and better guests. We might do live investigations, or you might do that. We could do live streaming from different events. So it's going to be all kind of stuff. And we're going to, just do our best to keep you entertained and keep you coming back. We're not going to take chances. You're not going to see us going into somewhere provoking and calling out spirits. We're not going to do that. And we're not going to try and pass off Dybbuk boxes and stuff for you to buy. We're
Yeah,
not going to
we
make
have
our.
plenty of other shows you can watch for that.
Yeah, if you want to watch, you know where to go. It's who had the Dybbuk box. That is so funny. And hearing this latest incarnation of a Dybbuk box thing, and somebody, it's like, they're saying, "Oh, Jimmy Page left it," and I thought all the way back to Zach Bagans, and all the way we had on one of our shows we had the guy who had the original Dybbuk box. We had both of the guys on at different times talking about the first Dybbuk box, and
Yeah.
even in the movie The Possession, which was all about a Dybbuk box, it was made very clear that this spirit was a Jewish spirit. It was related to the Jews, a Jewish family. And so I don't understand how it's gotten so. I guess I can't understand because I just said TikTok,
Or
YouTube.
didn't Zach buy a Dybbuk box?
Yeah, he bought his Dybbuk box recently. Well, he bought his Dybbuk box and then he bought another box recently, which I don't know too much about, so I'm not really going to talk about it. But he did buy that Dybbuk box that those two guys talked about. He eventually got it and put it into his museum in Las Vegas. And legit, maybe I don't know. I don't know because a lot more. I've read a lot more, and then we've found out a lot more about it. I don't know about the original one. Don't know, but now it's in a museum. Can it be done? Yeah. You can force a spirit into a container. You can force it into a jar or box or whatever. But is it going to be a Dybbuk? Can you do unless you're Jewish and you have one that's following your family around, because that is what a Dybbuk is, and it's specifically connected to them and not us. We have
No.
judgments, but the thing that's an actual Dybbuk is related to their bloodline. So, most people don't talk about that. They don't say that, oh, I'm going to do it. But you don't hear the actual, well, how could you? I don't know. I'm sorry. But just watching that video the other day, and it's like, I was like ready to go. Anybody who knew me when I was young, I was a Zepp head. I was way ahead of my class and I was a Zepp head. Okay. And, you don't put my band down saying, and I'll send you the link and maybe I'll share it. That's the other thing that we're going to do. We're going to share videos that we like on YouTube. We're going to create playlists for you guys to go and look at and stuff. But if you look at the box, it was like, these, you can go in these stores like World Market and stuff like that, or Pier 1, or a long time ago, you could Pier 1, but like World Market, you see these wooden boxes that are carved in India. They're just these little boxes, they're little wood, they're different color wood and all. So it was that, and it had wax, like red wax on top of it, and that originated from like a eBay. There was some box on eBay with, and I'm like, you really gonna have me believe that somebody like Jimmy Page, knowing what he did about Aleister Crowley's work and all that, is going to do. Why would he have a Dybbuk box? You can't get more English than Page, I'm like, so I went into the comments. I'm like, I said, not only were they trivializing, but I was like, you leave, and I said, oh, and I did another comment, and you leave Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin alone, okay? He didn't bury a Dybbuk box. When he's running around trying to escape a head that's rolling around after him, he's going to take time. He left that house. He was scared. I mean, he won't admit it now, but he was scared because he didn't know enough about the kind of magic and all that. Now he knows. He's older, and I'm sure now he would say, I know now what I was dealing with then. And, so it's just stuff like that, folks. It's like, and yeah, I'm going to call him out. I'm going to say this is a stupid video. This is doing a disservice to people who want to form groups, who want to go on ghost hunts, who, think everything's like TV. But, keep it up, I guess, so that, real investigators will have stuff to investigate.
We get called all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and people like me be able to tell you, well, this is what it is, this is the occult background of it. So we have a lot planned, and Bernadine is like super producer, so we know we're going to have a lot of good guests coming up, and a lot of return guests that we want to catch up with and see where they're at, and a lot of new guests and some new things that we're going to be trying and everything. And so welcome back, and we're going to do this. We're going to air our videos are going to load up. We're on Discord. And then I'm going to upload it to YouTube and to the other platforms. Of course, like I said, this is technically a challenge. It's a learning curve, but we're gonna be uploading on Friday nights usually. So once a week there should be a new podcast from us. Um, Hopefully it's going to be in video format soon because we're trying to iron out some kinks with that. So once a week we'll have a guest, or we'll have an investigation, or we'll have or maybe a deep dive into a topic, or an actual investigation if that comes up in on your end. So we're going to have all that, and it's something that we love to do, and we hope that you're going to love it too, and that you'll show up and like, subscribe, and do all the things, all of the things.
And can't they chat with us?
They will be able to in Discord, because our Discord will be live, and all those links will be provided. We have a great technician. Our admin is top notch, so she's going to help us get all that, and she'll be in the background, which she is always there to help us. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The relaunch of the
Yeah,
Supernatural Substation. It's your last stop before the unknown. And it
that's right.
always has been.
And you have
Always.
questions, you can find us on Facebook.
Yeah, we have a page on Facebook. And Dean, you have Louisiana State Paranormal Research Society on Facebook, right?
Yes, I do.
And we have the Supernatural Substation, which is on Facebook. And then we have an Instagram. And Instagram is a lot of like moody stuff. We're sharing dark stuff and all. But we're going to start putting. This is a revamp, and we're going to recreate some things. So just keep watching and keep listening. And we will I'll post this on Facebook as well for people that want to listen, and we hope that you find something that you like and you come back and every week and join us.
Looking forward to it.
I am too. And Pete's
Yay.
always in spirit. We have him guiding us and laughing at us,
Oh, yeah.
and telling us we don't know what the hell we're doing. No, tech wise, hey, it's a learning curve. What can I say? You want me to write you a paragraph that sounds great and beginning to end to the last? I can do that, but I don't know. Do I click on this, and then next thing you know, you're not doing it? So everybody have patience with us, and we're gonna wrap it up now. But everybody just come back. It's gonna get better and better.
And tell me where they can find your books.
You can find my books. Thank you. My books are on Amazon. It's Alyne Pustanio. Just Google. Well, Google. You can't Google on Amazon. There you go. It's a tech issue. Search me on Amazon. Not only do my actual books come up, but I've also contributed to a lot of different books, the Hoodoo Almanac, and some other books, Hoodoo and Conjure and stuff like that. And I had a chance to. There goes my dog. It must be time. I had a chance to contribute to the last few of Brad Steiger's books, which was before he passed, and so you can find those books there as well. And then my author page will be up, and we're going to be trying to get a website up and stuff. So it's all a work in progress again, and the same quality, the good quality, the fun. We don't take ourselves too seriously. Unless we have to. So, hang out with us every Friday. And maybe in between you can read my books and look up Bernadine's work. And hey, if you got a ghost problem, who are you going to call? Locally, anyway. Although, I don't know, you might travel.
Yeah, we need money.
Yeah, no, you can't charge. I know Dean doesn't charge. They never
No,
charge.
no,
So,
no such.
all righty. Well, that wraps up our first return show. And we're going to be probably about a 2-hour format too. Just as we had before. So, hopefully we get a lot of new listeners. Share us, and tell everybody about us word of mouth. And happy Halloween. Stay safe out there. Although the big weekend is gone and Halloween, they said it's going to be cold everywhere, so everybody might be staying in. But stay safe. It's still a lot of witchcraft going on, and a lot of energy moving around. So just protect yourselves. All right,
Yeah.
Dean, we're going to wrap it up.
All righty.
All right, we are now closing the Supernatural Substations, leaving the terminal on our first episode. Next week. Following week, about when is it? I don't know. Next 2 Fridays from now, our first guest, Misty Gaither, from New Orleans, paranormal investigator and true crime enthusiast. So join us then and see y'all later. Say bye,
Bye.
Dean.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.